All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our second middle grade video chat. I have just a couple announcements before we get started. Oh, I'm Sarah. I'm Sarah Nicolas. I'm the on the Pitchwars board, and I'm the agent liaison this year. And I'll be the moderator today. If you don't know what Pitch Wars is, if you're just stumbling upon this video, either live or replay, you can find out more about it at pitchwars.org. But a short summary is it's a volunteer-led annual mentoring event where authors and industry professionals choose one author to mentor by doing a full round of revisions, and then it ends in an agent showcase where the mentees are able to pitch their books in a showcase that agents can participate in. And so go to pitchwars.org if you'd like to learn more about it, and you can see all that information on that site. If you're watching on Twitter or Facebook or somewhere else where this video is embedded in, you're probably going to want to click on through to YouTube so that you can participate in the chat and ask questions. We do have Lee Marr, social media director, is on Twitter, and so if she sees any questions on Twitter, she'll bring them over for us. But if she may not see them, so if you want to make sure your question gets answered, make sure you click on through to YouTube. We also have in the today I have two of our I'll call them friends of Pitch Wars, Jay, Lynn, and Lodestar are in the chat moderating today to keep an eye out for any possible trolls or anything like that. We haven't had that problem yet, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. So thank you, Lodestar and Jay, Lynn, for volunteering to do that today. You can go ahead and start asking questions now. As soon as the mentors introduce themselves, we'll jump right into the questions. So feel free to start dropping them and we'll just go in order. Submissions open on September 27th. So it's coming up. It's about 8 days. So you are welcome to ask questions about wish lists and genres and that kind of thing, but we will not be asking any questions that are like pre-pitches. So nothing that's like, hi, I have this book about XYZ. Would you be interested in that? We're not going to be doing that today. But if you want to ask generally, like, how do you feel about, the lower middle grade market or something like that, you can do that. And we have some other chats coming up as well as other chats we've done in the past. So you can catch the replays of those. There's a playlist on my YouTube channel, so you can go and find the previous ones and then also check out what we have coming up. And also if you go to pitchwars.org and click on the blog, you can see what's coming up on Twitter chats and also Instagram takeovers. And now it's time to introduce our mentors. So we're going to start with Gail.
Hi, I'm Gail D. Villanueva, and I'm the author of My Fate According to the Butterfly and Sugar and Spite. It's forthcoming on April 20, 2021. I'm actually also the Pitch Wars technical director. So sometimes you see me answering the technical questions that you may have on Twitter. And this year, actually, this is for, I think the last time I mentored was in 2017. And this year, since we have more or less the technical stuff laid out, I'm mentoring again, and I'm taking in fantasy, contemporary, STEM, adventure, historical, alternate history, steampunk, retellings, graphic novels, and illustrated prose. That's so.
Cool.
Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Vitalis. This is my 6th year mentoring Pitch Wars, my 4th year co-mentoring with Julie Arts as Team Unicorn Mojo. We are accepting upper and middle grade fantasy, including historical fantasy and contemporary with fantastical elements. And my upcoming debut is The Wolf's Curse, which is an upper and middle grade fantasy coming out in fall of 2021 with Green Willow HarperCollins with a second book to follow.
Hi, I'm Jennifer L. Brown. I was a Pitch Wars mentee myself in 2017, and I have been co-mentoring with Kim Long as a part of Team Krakenbee. I brought a mug. Oh, I'm bad at the camera though. Team Krakenbee for 2018, 2019, and now 2020. It's our 3rd year together. We this year are looking for anything speculative, science fiction, fantasy, middle grade, obviously. From contemporary with the smallest hint of magic to a full-on second world fantasy adventure, anything in between. Hello.
Hi, I'm Rajani LaRocca, and I'm so excited to be here. I was also a 2017 mentee, and this is my third year mentoring with my friend Remy Lai. And we're looking for all kinds of middle grade with humor and heart. We're open to contemporary, anything speculative. We're open to all kinds of stuff. The only things we're not super into is horror and just pure adventure without kind of like a character development arc. And in terms of books, so Midsummer's Mayhem was my 2017 manuscript, and it was published last year in 2019. And my next middle grade is Red, White, and a Hole. Here's a shiny arc. It's coming in February 2nd with Quiltree HarperCollins. And I'm excited to be here and answer questions.
I was muted. Hi, I'm Sofiya Pasternack. I was also a 2017 Pitchwars mentee, and this is my first year as a mentor. I'm very excited to be here, super stoked. And so this is my book that was my Pitchwars 17 manuscript, Onion the Dragon, was published last year. And then I've got this one, I'm not gonna step over. This is the sequel coming out in November. I'm looking for fantasy. Give me your fantasy, please. I love historical fantasy, and I'm not a huge fan of contemporary settings unless there's a fantastical elements or there's like a portal that's going to open up and take them somewhere. So please send me your fantasies.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. I wanted to answer Amir's question real quick. So you see some people in the comments saying, hey, pubbers. And so Amir asked, what are pubbers? And so I have a show called Pub Talk Live on the second and fourth Saturday of every month. It's a publishing talk show. And pubbers are what my regular viewers have called themselves. So it's like a small but very dedicated community, and they're wonderful. So that's why you're seeing pubbers in the comments. All right, so Lone Star asks, it's pretty obvious what us mentees get out of Pitch Wars, but what makes it fun and worth it for you? Shout out to the awesome community.
Well, definitely the community. I mean, I found through Pitchwars, I met a lot of people. I participated in Pitch Madness. That was, I think, 2016. I forget, but I've met a lot of people online. I'm based in the Philippines, so it's like a really great opportunity for me to meet fellow writers, even just before the event, after the event, during the event. Like, it's a great community, and that's what I love about it the most.
So part of my feeling is that it's just really fun. Like, we're all like book geeks, right? So like it's really fun to read stories and help people make things better, and it's more kind of bigger capacity than you would with only your critique partners. And then the other thing, and listen, we're middle grade, so we can be cheesy all we want, is that I really feel like it's my chance to pay things forward, because I benefited so much from the community at Pitch Wars in 2017. And it kind of started a whole bunch of wonderful things in my life, including meeting awesome women right around, the ones that are around me right now. And I just want to pay it forward and help other people and help other writers who were in the same spot.
It's kind of the same, paying it forward. When I was a little kind of baby writer coming up through the ranks and figuring things out, I feel like I had to do a lot of stuff the hard way. And I would really love to, help people out and be like, let me give you some insight. Let's talk about this cool trick that I learned, or, something like that. And just mentorship is about making somebody else's life easier based off of your own struggles. So that's kind of what I get out of it. It's a really good feeling to help somebody else out.
Yeah, I would say that it's the same for me. I've talked and blogged about this before, but my journey to publishing was really long. It took me 13 years to sell my first book. And along the way, I was really, really dedicated to craft, but I would have given anything for a mentor to hold my hand and just help me along and help me learn the shortcuts and figure out what I was doing wrong and what I could do better. And so for me, Pitch Wars is just a way to give something back to the writing community and help hopefully shorten somebody else's journey. Plus, I love geeking out on craft. So for me, just talking craft with somebody is just pure joy.
I mean, I agree with everything said so far. 2017 pitchwars for me was such a gift. And it was a gift for my writing community, which expanded in the most wonderful way. And I found my writing people, which was so lovely. And my mentors opened up my mind and pointed out, like, this is what you stumbled into and you were doing right all along. And these are things you could improve, and here's how you can improve them. And it felt like a 2.5-month grad school intense course that I'm like, now I want to share that knowledge with other people.
Sarah, I think you're muted.
Thank you. I had muted my mic so it wasn't on the screen. Yeah, I got like my belly started making like these little rumbling sounds, so I muted my mic. But I was saying, I think it's funny. We have mentees from like different years on the show, and you can tell what year they were from by how long their mentoring period was. Because when it first started, it was like 4 to 5 weeks in 2012. And then it's like grown and grown and grown. And then we did 4 months and we decided that was too long. So now I think we're settled at 3 months now, but I always like, you can tell what year they did it by how long their mentoring period was. All right. So Serene asks, do most of the mentors read through full manuscripts before making a decision? And maybe you can kind of broaden this question to just talk about how you go through your inbox and how you make your decision.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not gonna pick anything that I haven't read in full, right? I mean, aside from the fact that I have to connect with the voice, I need to be able to read it from start to finish in order for me to know how to. I'm gonna be able to help it. Like what was that again? What's the second question? Sorry, it's like 2 a.m. here, so my brain is kind of like
yeah, just kind of talk like once you get your submissions, how do you go through your inbox?
Yeah,
how do you what's your process like?
My inbox, like if like I usually just go through first the queries. I look at the queries, and then the ones that I like, I put it under like interested. Like I have like labels for myself, like interested. And then once I'm done with all the queries, and like sometimes I even take a peek at the because you really have no choice but to take a peek at the at the sample. The way the submission site is set up right now is like you really have no choice. You're gonna like see the sample pages whether you like it or not. But I usually don't go through them in detail until I actually know that I'm really very interested in that particular book, and then from there I request my full.
So Julie and I have a fairly scientific process, I guess. We divide our inbox in half, and we have a pretty extensive spreadsheet that we log every entry into our spreadsheet. We're both geeks, what can I tell you? We log every entry into our spreadsheet, write a few notes about it, and then we label it either yellow for maybe or red for it's probably not for us. And then green is, oh my gosh, this premise sounds so cool. We definitely want to see more. So then we go through and try to narrow it down to like maybe the top, there's no set number, but maybe the top 10 that we're just dying to see more of, and we'll request fulls. And then we don't necessarily read all of the fulls. We'll just read until we have a good idea whether or not it's something we think we can help, whether it's something we think we can help in the time frame we have for pitch wars. And the most important thing for us is just, do we love it? And there's almost no work that we aren't willing to do if we really fall in love with the manuscript. But yes, it's safe to say that I don't think we would pick a manuscript without reading the whole thing first. Although sometimes we know, like from the minute it hits our inbox and we see the premise, we're like, please let this hold up. We love it so much. And then like by the first paragraph, we're like, okay, done. This is the one for us. So we do read them all no matter what, but that's our process.
So Remy and I do a similar thing. We have a spreadsheet. I start from the top and she starts from the bottom or whatever. And we label them green, which means the other person should read, yellow, which means we don't know, or red, like probably not for us. And if one of us says it's not for us, then it's not for us. So we, and then I always read the query and the pages. I may or may not read the synopsis at that point until we kind of decide how serious we are about something. And I cannot imagine choosing a manuscript to work on or a person to work with unless I've read the full manuscript. So absolutely. And then in general, we don't request partial manuscripts. We only request full because like, why keep going back? And if we, and we don't feel obligated to read a full manuscript if we feel like something in the middle is kind of, we've lost interest. That's okay. But I mean, the point is also, it's important to say, we're not expecting perfection, because if it were perfect, why would they need us? So, we're looking for a great voice and a kind of a sense of where the story is going, and and something that we think that we can help with.
Yeah, similar process. We divide our submission list in half. We also use a very stoplight method, where it means please can, and then I'm impatient, so that.
Jennifer, you're freezing a little bit.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no. What can
You're
I
better
do?
now.
Let me know if it happens again.
Okay.
So I was saying we divide our list in half. We do like a stoplight method too. We both end up of our submissions, and then we always request full. We usually check in about into with each other and see if we're both interested in continuing to read and why we're both interested in continuing to read. So we don't finish all of the fulls we get, but most of them.
This is my first year. I don't know how I do it yet. I'm still figuring that out.
I think you should start from the bottom and the top at the same time, and see if you meet in the middle.
I will do that. You're the expert here. I'll take your advice. Probably, I mean, I do love me some queries, so for sure. If something is on my like, don't send this to me, my no-nos list on my website, I would say that I'll probably just not bother reading anything of it because I'm not going to like it. But otherwise, query, synopsis, pages, and then not only if, like everyone else has said, not only if I love it, but I think I can help it, then it would be send me your full. And I don't think it would be responsible of me to request a manuscript unless I'd read the whole thing, because how do I know if I'm going to be able to fix it or not fix it, but how do I know if I'm going to be able to help if I don't know everything that happens? So that's what I expect. Maybe I'll change my mind when I see how much reading I have to do. Who knows?
I think it's like really important. Like it's not just being able to connect to a certain voice. It's more about like, if this manuscript is something that I can actually help. Not enough. Like sometimes there are books that I totally love and like I totally connect with a voice, but for some reason I just do not know what am I gonna do with this, kind of like that. So
yeah, the size of the edit too, don't you think? Like I think there are some times that we've saw manuscripts that we loved, but we envisioned a person having to do way more than 3 months of work to get it into a shape that it needs to be in an agent showcase and then go on to query. So I think the size of the edit matters a lot too.
Speaking of which, I think Rajani submitted to me.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I think you requested my full manuscript.
I did. And Joy was like, Gail, I really love this.
Oh.
I know it's a play, and so
it's so funny. Yeah. Right? I was like, oh my goodness. I was very excited. It was extremely exciting. So the thing that I wanted to say is that, the interesting thing to me is that there are all kinds of things that we may be able to help with, like with plotting and with character and, bringing out theme and stuff like that. But every time, our two mentees so far, they can write, man. That's you read their stuff and you were like, they know how to write. All the other stuff is fixable. It's just that we have to know for sure based on your writing that you can write. And because revision, in this short period of time, it takes a lot. Yep. So there are certain skills that we can't teach you that you already have to kind of come to the table with. But the rest of it is totally workable.
I like to think of it as you have to know how to write. You just might not know how to write a novel. And I can teach you to write a novel, but I can't teach you to write in 3 months, if that makes any sense.
For sure.
With Rajani, one of the things that Joy was was able to convince me to just give it up is Joy knew about the plays. She's a playwright, and I knew that she knew what Midsummer Mayhem, and me, I was like, I think, yeah, you have a point, because when we were talking, like when we were discussing this play in high school, I was like, can I get Byron's book notes or something? So I think, yeah, definitely, this one of the things, like, I have to admit that was beyond the mythology where it was based on, is something that was much better to be with somebody like Joy, who knew about plays, like who lived in plays. So
yeah. But that's one of the things I love about the middle grade group, is because I feel like we all really want the manuscripts to land with the right people. Like we sometimes watch the YAs and the adults fight and, throw it down. But for me, I'm willing to give up a manuscript if I think that it will be in better hands somewhere else. So middle grade's the best.
Yeah, I don't.
It really is.
At least since I started helping to run the event, I don't think we've had a middle grade war. I don't know if we've ever had a middle grade war.
I don't think
so nice.
Yeah.
We are.
It's more like we're like, oh
It's
no, I
great
don't
here.
think we can mentor this one, but we really want you to, and we're like giving people.
That's right. That's right.
Take this. I know, it's very funny.
So we talked about in the middle grade chat last night. Y'all were talking about you wouldn't be able to mentor without reading the full manuscript. In 2012, 2013, we had 1 week to read our submissions. And so most of us did choose without reading the full manuscript. And that's when I started requesting synopses, because it's like, you have no idea what's going to happen in the rest of the book, and you don't have time to read all the fulls. Not only did we have 1 week, we were all in the same Gmail account, which like kept locking us out because there were too many. So we had a week, but we were like locked out of the account for like a day and a half.
Gail has been a lifesaver. Like without her tech experience.
Oh my gosh, I know the tech that you do, Gail. I don't even know how you do it. You're amazing.
All right, so we have a question from Orchard KA. Thanks for being here. I plan to hire authenticity readers for my novel. When would you encourage / expect mentees to do this? Before submitting to Pitch Wars, during the mentorship? Thanks.
So I have used authenticity readers for a manuscript set in the Cold War in the Soviet Union, because I was alive. I was a baby during the Cold War, and I have never been to the Soviet Union. So I thought, I need somebody to read this. And I wrote the whole manuscript first, and then I had this person read it. And they gave me so much insight and so many cool things. And I made huge changes to the manuscript. So from personal experience, I would say, as soon as possible, get with someone who is knowledgeable, not even for reading necessarily, but this is the kind of thing I want to do. Tell me about whatever. I said, I want to know what it was like to be a kid growing up in the Soviet Union in the 70s, mid 70s. And they told me exactly what I needed to know. And it changed a lot of the book. So, or the earlier, the better, probably, because it's going to change the trajectory of your plot, how you write some of the characters. And it's invaluable, amazing information. It's going to inform you a ton. So, if I got someone, go ahead.
No, keep going, please.
I was just going to say, if I got a manuscript that was that I kind of thought, I think this needs some kind of sensitivity or authenticity reader, and the mentee or the mentee hopeful had not even thought about it yet, like that might be a red flag to me. But if they said, yes, I need to do it, haven't been able to yet, sometimes it costs money, then that's something we can work around. But I definitely want somebody who is cognizant that it's the thing that they need. I don't want it to be a surprise, basically, for me.
I was going to just say the same thing. If you know that you need a reader and haven't hired one yet, then even mention that in your query letter. Just, in your bio paragraph, it can just be one sentence saying, I'm planning to hire an authenticity reader before the agent round, to let us know that you are aware of the fact that it could potentially be necessary.
Yeah, and another thing to note, though, is that there's also a timeline that we have to consider. So especially there are things that when you bring in an authenticity reader, you realize that there are things that just don't work at all and would essentially that would essentially change the whole thing. And that's one thing that you have to consider. Would you be able to finish all that within 3 months? And that's That's a huge thing.
Yep.
So might be like I totally agree with Sophia that you have to bring in a sensitive, an authenticity reader as soon as you can.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's gonna be like a whole commitment of 3 months, right? So,
Also, there's like levels, right? Like sometimes a sensitivity reader would affect the entire concept or the entire plot, whereas sometimes an authenticity
yeah.
reader is brought in for a character who's in 2 scenes, so that
Right.
those are different things.
And these
Yeah,
are kinds
that's
of
what I was gonna
questions
say.
we'll be asking too. If we do email you for your manuscript, most of us will have some questions ready asking, have you had a reader? What are your thoughts? Where did this character come from? Just to figure out what we would be dealing with if we selected you as a mentee.
Yeah. All right. So Jessica Borsey has a 2-part question. How did you get into writing middle grade? And in honor of today being International Talk Like a Pirate Day, I did not know that. How do you feel about pirates, freebooters, unconventional navies, and middle grade? I'm going to leave the question up because it's 2 parts, so y'all can.
And like,
Okay,
my brain is kind of slow.
So I got into writing middle grade because the books that I loved the most and affected me the most in my life were ones that I read when I was middle grade age, and I still love them to this day. But the short answer to that is that I think I am stuck at the age of 12 mentally. So, like, of course, I read middle grade.
I think most of us are.
And the idea of writing like kissing and stuff like that is like, oh, okay. It's a little scary. Like, I like to read it, that's fine, but I don't want to really write it. And then in terms of International Talk Like a Pirate Day, arg, I love pirates. I have nothing against pirates. I think it sounds like fun. And I've got a selection of very bad pirate jokes that I can tell at some point.
Well, I live in an island, so pirates. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I find pirates interesting, but it does happen like in the Philippine seas, and yeah, sometimes you have to there are like islands that you have to take note. You have to be careful. So they're like real pirates, not just like the Jack Sparrow.
I was gonna say that. I think we're talking about like what's the show, Jake the
Kraken.
Pirate or whatever.
Oh yeah, Jake. Yep, my kids used to watch that show. Oh.
Jake I thought you said Date the Pirate. I was like, well,
Jake.
It's a kid's show.
I think
This is not an adult mentor chat.
This is the wrong chat for you.
So, my opinion on Pirates in middle grade, like if you've got something that is like the Muppet Treasure Island, I desperately want that. That sounds like, please. If it's something like I don't know, adult Treasure Island, maybe not, but like Muppet Treasure Island, send it. Like if it's got that vibe to it, for sure.
You guys know this cartoon like Treasure Planet?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I love that.
That movie is so underrated.
Yeah.
So underrated. It's like Treasure Island in space. It's amazing. It's
I
one of
love
my
that.
favorite movies ever. It's so good. And it's totally underrated. So yeah, if you have a Treasure Island or a Treasure Planet or a Muppet Treasure Island, then like I'm gonna add that into my bio. Like seriously, I love both of those. Honestly. So yeah, for me to answer that question. And I got into writing for the middle grade the same reason Rajani did, because I'm a child. At heart.
So my journey into writing middle grade was a little bit different. When I first started pursuing writing, I really wanted to write picture books. And I joined a writing group, a critique group. And every single time I brought them a picture book, the same response. It was always, this sounds exactly like the first chapter of a middle grade novel. This went on for a very long time. And finally, I got a clue and realized that maybe that meant I had a middle grade voice. And it had been years since I had read middle grade novels. So I just started reading middle grade. And I remember in particular reading one of David Allman's stories and just absolutely falling in love with it and thinking, yes, this is home for me. This is where I want to be. So that's what kicked it off. And as to pirate stories, I would say, like, if it's a fun, frolicky romp, it's probably not for us. But if it's something that's sort of upper middle grade and real pirates would be super awesome. But also just anything dark with tons of heart would be something we'd be very interested in seeing.
Yeah, sorry, one of the things that I think I like about the Treasure Island, the Treasure Planet, is the dynamics of the main character and the dad figure. So it's probably because of the family dynamics that it's not really about the pirates. It's about
Right.
the like kind of like with Jessica. It's not just the pirate that's
Right.
the main thing that would capture my fancy. It's more about the plot, like how it evolves, like the themes.
Like Hook's Revenge. Have you guys read Hook's Revenge?
I was gonna talk about Hook's Revenge.
I just feel like Revenge books.
It's in our wish list. The voice in Hook's Revenge is insane.
You cannot pull the wish list.
So good.
I love the voice in that. We might have our first Pitch Wars battle on hand, folks.
What is it? Gonna be you and me crying about how good Hook's Revenge is.
You take it. No, you take it.
You take it, but it's so good. Hook's Revenge is really lovely. The voice is so great. It is told from the perspective of like kind of an older male narrator, which is really unusual in middle grade. But the main character is Captain Hook's daughter, who has been estranged from Captain Hook. And it is kind of about their family relationship, but also girl power and being a pirate. And how great is that book? So it's great one if you haven't read it. Oh,
see, that's it. It's not pure adventure. It's also got heart. It's got like
heart.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, and I started writing middle grade the exact opposite way of Jessica did, that I thought I wrote a YA novel, and people were like, gently, you are a middle grade writer and your voice is perfect, so just age the scroll down.
All right. Y'all are so funny. Okay, so we have a question that I can just answer. It's a procedural question. My chapters are short, less than 1,000 words. Should I still submit only chapter 1, or should I submit a higher word count? So if you have short chapters, you are permitted to submit up to 10 pages. So feel free to submit the full 10 pages. Just don't go over that. Camille asks, any recommendations for hybrid categories? Is it a good idea to put both in the pitch, or try to only mention the one that might be more prominent? I think maybe we're talking about genres here, right? So I will say, just
the Remy book is in the Remy book, because I know her book is like a hybrid.
Yeah. Yes. Well, just point of order, like when you submit, you do have to pick one genre from a drop-down list, but you can be more specific in the body of your query. So just a heads up on that.
And I would say too, it's going to be pretty clear probably from your query if it's going to cross over into different genres. So we're going to be able to tell pretty fast if it's more than one thing.
Yeah.
All right. Melissa asks, what is too scary for middle grade?
There's no such thing.
I keep getting that question, like even on Twitter. Like I specified in my wish list post, like too scary, it's probably not for me. And my too scary is like demonic possession, like Annabelle, Chucky, like I just cannot handle that. So I would probably read it once, and one of the things that I'm reading right now is Deka Herman, Hide and Seeker.
That one looks so good.
Yeah.
I have the ARC.
Just that cover is super creepy.
Gorgeous.
It looks awesome.
So like I think there's like you can have suspense and creepiness without it being like horror. Like to me, I'm just like, I don't want anything really gross, like faces melting and like, and I don't think demonic possession is something really cool either. Like I'm just not like, that's not really it for me. But like getting a little bit scared, or like, feeling like something's coming after you, or you're not quite sure what's going on, like those kinds of things are all great in middle grade, and kids love to feel that too.
Yeah, and especially psychological horror. Like, is it Kenneth Opel who wrote The Nest?
Oh, The Nest.
I love that story. Like that type of psychological suspense is fantastic.
Yeah, I think read a lot of middle grade like horror, read a lot of middle grade spooky stories, and if it feels like of a piece with those, you're okay. And if it feels like well beyond those, you're not. It's hard for us to say until we've like seen your story and seen the specific elements. Or like I read a lot of Goosebumps as a kid and I loved them. And those were so scary, like legitimately scary, I would say. So I think kids have a high tolerance.
I loved Goosebumps as a kid. Like I had all of them like lined up on my bookshelf in order, like numerical order.
Me too.
Loved them. I still think about some of those stories. Like I still like they run through my head. Remember that happened? I'll be like, that was creepy. Like, but it wasn't like, I think I want to make sure that mentees don't conflate like scary with like gory or violent or something like that.
right.
Cause like scary is one thing, like blood and guts, and that's a completely different thing. So that is something that I'm not a huge fan of.
Same.
Having said, like, I do have some of that in my books, but it's not gratuitous and it's for a purpose. Like, there's a reason. So if there was going to be a lot of gore, I would probably ask to scale it back, but then also ask, like, well, why is this happening? Like walk me through why you feel like you need this to be here. What are you trying to achieve? And it's going to need a lot of really good convincing. I would say is don't add it just for grossness sake. I guess like I have it there for a reason, and be able to defend it.
And probably another too scary for me is having like clowns, because
Clowns are creepy.
I'm scared of clowns, so that would make it too scary for me. Like whether or not like the book is like just creepy, but as long as there's a clown on it, it's like, no. Sorry, I can't.
Not for Gail.
Not for Gail. Not for me.
All right. Catherine asked if a potential mentee split amicably from an agent, is that something you'd want mentioned in the query letter?
I would like to know that. I think for me, it signals that there's a quality of writing there that I should definitely take a second look at. So yeah, I'd like to know that information.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to tell us why you left. It's fine.
Right,
yeah.
You can just say you were previously agented. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many of us have left agents. This is a common thing that happens all the time. So
Yeah. All right. I've seen some different word count ranges for middle grade, with some ranges going from 20 to 55, some saying 50 to 70. What's considered a proper word count for middle grade novels?
Depends on the genre.
True.
And
If it's contemporary,
age, I think.
yeah,
as well.
upper versus lower, yeah. For any age category, fantasy, usually like fantasy, sci-fi, they get extra because you have to build that world up. If it's contemporary, you don't, because we're all familiar with the world, so it's on the lower end. Like honestly, I would say the books that are middle grade that you really love. I can't remember the website. There's a website you can go to. You can just Google like book name word count, and it's somewhere. Like somebody has counted those words. It's posted on the internet somewhere. And so all the books that you would comp yours to, check out what their word counts are. And if yours is in the neighborhood, great, perfect. If it's way longer, way shorter, then it might be just an issue with pacing, or you didn't world build enough, or you world build too much, or something like that. So just double check. It depends on genre and age.
To be honest, I won't be too worried about the word count at this point, because that's one of the things that we can work with you if we pick you, and if we like the story and we know we like where it's going, we know how to fix it. And word count, that's just one of the things that we can work with. If it's too short, we can add in like what we feel might be. We can suggest things that might make it a little bit longer and within the genre where it falls under. And if it's too long, we can easily just cut some scenes that we don't need.
Yeah, but
So
I think within reason, like don't give us 100K middle grade. Like I just
Right.
like nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Unless like what that Christian Strong punches a hole in the sky is like 100K.
Yeah,
But
it's
you have to
possible.
be Kwame first.
Right.
That's the thing I always tell people. How come Kwame has like 100K middle grade? And I'm like, are you Kwame? You have to be Kwame to pull that off.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there are outliers, but at this point, like
I would say that 40 to 70K is really safe. But having said that, I think we had a mentee that was at maybe 36 or 37,000 words. And at the end for the mentor round, they were at something like 60,000. And we've also taken a mentee who had 79,000 and we cut them down to something like 70,000. And Erin Entrada Kelly was just talking about this actually. And she was saying that she would even take manuscripts as low as, I think she said 30,000 words, because her manuscripts tend to be at 40,000. So she would if she loved it, she would still take it and just assume that that meant that you would need to do quite a bit of adding and revision, which you're going to do anyway. So like everybody else said, don't worry too much about word count.
Yeah,
So I mean, so for example, like this is Midsummer's Mayhem, right? This was around 60K when I finished with Pitch Wars, and it ended up being 63K. And then Red, White, and Whole is a novel in verse. It is 31K. It's just it's but there are different types of books doing different things. So it's
Right.
Don't worry, but please don't give me 100,000. That's all I'm saying. Everything else is fine. I don't think we can deal with 100,000 words.
Yeah. All right. A question I've always had is for clarification on the difference between magical realism and contemporary fantasy. Can you elaborate? I want to make sure I classify my book the correct way, and we can probably also talk about fabulous fiction as well.
It would be more appropriate to call it fabulism unless it's deeply rooted in the Latinx within the Latinx culture. So it's safer. It would be more appropriate to call it like fabulism because it's like what do you call that? Is a genre that started with the Latinx
and
Depression.
Marquez, so it might be more appropriate to call it fabulism.
Yeah.
Or you could just say contemporary fantasy. We understand that. It's a real world kind of setting with some interesting things going on. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard someone explain it once, and because it's such a fine line, and like there are a lot of stories that could be kind of either fabulous or contemporary fantasy. But usually in contemporary fantasy, the magic is, if you take the magic out, you don't have a story. Whereas in fabulism, usually if you take the magic out, you can still have a story.
Actually, I think my book is fabulism. Although some people call it magical realism because the Philippines is actually also a colony of Spain, which is we're in a really weird spot. Like we're in Asia, but we've been colonized by Spain for 333 years. So there's like a weird spot there where we're not even sure if we would qualify for magical realism. Some people there are like Filipino writers who get classified as magical realism. But to be safe, I would say my my book. It's My Fate According to the Butterfly would probably classify as fabulism because there's just one small aspect of magic in it, which the funny thing about it is that it's also a magic that we as a people believe in to be real.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it kind of gets a little bit blurry. Is this the reality or is this magic? So
yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. I would also say just don't fret that much about what you're going to pick. Like we're not going to dock you points if we're like, actually, I think this is more of a contemporary fantasy. Contemporary fantasy will give us a good enough idea. So honestly, it just helps us in sorting through queries initially to see what's going on.
And we can also change it later on.
Yeah, we don't care, honestly. Call it whatever you want to, and we'll figure out together what it is, kind of thing.
You can call it like a book.
Yeah, actually, our mentee,
I'm totally fine with that, but make it easier, like fantasy, just plain fantasy. Totally fine.
Yeah, I was going to say our mentee in 2018, her book, which is actually coming out September 22nd, it's called The Mutant Mushroom Takeover, and you should all buy it. It's so good. But she was like, I have no idea what to call this. It's kind of sci-fi light, but contemporary. And there are STEM elements because the girl's a scientist and she uses science to help solve this sci-fi problem. So what do we call this? And we had a big powwow about it to decide what to call it. So it is, it's a thing that's up for discussion.
Yeah,
Did you call it mushroom fabulism?
I was calling it Spore Wars really unhelpfully, and they were like, "That's not allowed."
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've definitely heard mentors. They're like, "Oh, this person called this, for example, women's fiction, and it's a historical romance, but I love it anyway." Brenda's here. Brenda just want to say hello. She said, "I love coming to chat to see our volunteer mentors in real life." Aw. All right. Anushi asked, are you open to a contemporary story where a sport is weaved through the story and forms the backbone of the manuscript?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have seen like one of the books that I like. She's also mentoring Sarah Prepaskapit. Her book is Get a Grip, Bibi Cohen. I've read it before, like before she submitted to Pitchwars, and I just helped her like polish it up a bit. And it's a book about baseball, and it's really great. And there's
And
like
my
I think it's own voices for it's even like it's even on own voices, but and I'm not sure if she's still I haven't like gotten my copy yet because pandemic. Yeah, shipping is like really really horrible right now here in the Philippines. So I'm still waiting for my final copy, but the ones that I read, the version that I read is that it was an epistolar.
yes,
Yeah.
it's epistolary. Yeah.
It's still that way. Yep.
It's so hard to say.
Yes.
But it's one of a great example of a sports book, and I think there are a lot more. But
My second middle grade next year is a baseball and math book. It's a girl and a boy who both play baseball and are math competition rivals. So
And
yes, I don't have any problems with sports.
Good.
Oh, you're so sweet.
that's interesting. I can't math for the life of me, but
You can. We all do.
It's
All right,
probably obvious from our wish list, but that probably wouldn't be a great fit for us.
Yeah, unless it was like fantasy football, as in like it's an elf playing football.
Like
Like
real
yeah, sure. Like actual fantasy.
Football with flying. Send
it's
us
like-
football with flying.
Yeah, right. Like, but
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, I'm probably not the best fit for that.
probably with me, I'd definitely look at it because one of the things that few people know is that I used to be a basketball varsity player. I was a point guard for the basketball team in my high school and
Wow.
Nice.
yeah, and my husband is a volleyball player, so sports is in this family. So that's something that I definitely look at.
That's awesome.
All right. Malia asked, do you read the submissions in chronological order? Does it help to get them in ASAP so they're at the top of the pile? So I'm just going to say no. Like the mentors all
No.
read differently anyway. So even if one person answered, it would be a different answer for someone else. And also, it's actually really hard for them to tell what order they came in on the submission site. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And then-
I don't even write chronologically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Scrivener, so it's possible to do that.
Love Scrivener.
Alex asked a question that I'm also going to answer. I know it's already a daunting task to read and select manuscripts. Would you offer feedback to some manuscripts you don't select? They are not allowed to answer that question. We have specifically forbidden them from answering that question. So you can blame us. You can blame the committee. And that's because we had a problem in the past where some mentors would say they're giving feedback to everyone, and then they got triple the submissions of the people who said they weren't. And then they had committed themselves to this, so they spent like weeks and weeks answering, providing feedback. So we just don't want to create that situation for our mentors again. So they're not allowed to say until after submissions are done. What ages are considered middle grade?
8 to 12.
Mm-hmm. With a sprinkle of maybe 13 for upper middle grade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kids tend to read up some, like a couple of years. So if your protagonist is 13, then 11-year-olds are going to be reading that protagonist and so on. So there is that fuzzy crossover area. But generally, if somebody's a teen, they're technically a young adult.
And Julie and I are
but
specifically
13's okay.
asking for upper middle grade. So we would be looking for main characters that are in the, possibly 10, but probably 11 to 13 age range.
In my sequel, my characters are 13 and 15, and it's still middle grade. It's just upper. So the readers are still middle grade readers. And the content is middle grade content. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Question for Sofiya. Back in 2017, we were in a critique group together. Would it be weird if I spoke to you?
go Go ahead. No, you're fine.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, sometimes the mentors will put on their wish list, something like this. And the guideline that I always like to use is, if you could DM me and ask me to read your stuff, don't submit to me, because we're friends enough for that. So, but Sophia, go ahead and answer if you want.
That's what I was kind of going to say. But sometimes I think people like, oh yeah, they'd be totally comfortable sending me a message. I'm so nice. And then that's not at all the case. That's not how they feel on the other end. So yeah, Amir, if you feel like you could just DM me and ask me to read, then that's probably the better option. And if you think that I'm mean and scary and you'd rather just submit officially, then do that. I'm very scary.
That's what everyone says about you. Mean and scary.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's all of middle grade, actually. All of us.
Just totally very mean and scary.
Yeah, right.
Gail, come on.
Catherine's question is related to the last. I'm just going to answer this really quick because we're almost out of time. So I want to make sure we get to as many questions as possible. But you will not receive a rejection. Basically, all the mentees are posted on at the same time. And so you can check. And if your name is on that list, then you made it in. If your name is not on that list, then you did not make it in. Though some mentors will send emails afterwards, but not all of them will. So just a heads up on that.
Yeah, kind of the same thing with feedback. Like if you get like overwhelming amount of submissions, it's just not physically possible to send all the rejections.
Geeky Acrylics asks, do you ever get submissions that are too polished to help? And if so, do you reach out and suggest a mentee query?
Oh yeah, definitely. How about you guys? I would like tell them like this is query ready.
What we as an organization encourage our mentors to do is to say that they can't think of any way to help it. They can't think of any way to improve it because one person's opinion. Because if we say it's query ready and then you go out and query and you don't get any hits,
kind of blame.
Yeah. And so it's always a personal opinion of the mentor. So keep that in mind.
So I just want to say that in 6 years of mentoring Pitch Wars, I don't know that I've ever seen a manuscript that I couldn't think of a single thing to change, which makes sense because if you think about it, even after you sign with an agent, and especially after you sign with an editor, you're still revising your manuscript. I mean, there's really no such thing as a perfect manuscript. So, I mean, if for some reason I did see something that was just so amazing that I couldn't think of a single thing to do, then I would definitely tell them to go out and query. But again, in 6 years and seeing hundreds and hundreds of submissions come in, I haven't yet done that. So there's almost always something that can be fixed.
I mean, like,
so I just want to say something. It's a little bit related to this, but like, what I want to say is that this is like, if you don't get selected for Pitch Wars, if you don't have somebody offer to mentor you, it is not a reflection of your story or you. It is just that we have to choose people that we want to spend 3 months with their manuscript and with them. And we need to choose stories that speak to us, and also, people that we feel like we can work with and that we can make a difference in a particular manuscript. So it is not like, and publishing is so hard because it is full of rejection. Like at every phase, you're just like, you just keep hearing no, or you don't hear anything, which is like very common. So I know it's easy to get discouraged, but it really, and like, here's the thing, because when people say, like when agents say, oh, I just have to fall in love with it, like that's true. Because if you're going to spend time on it, like you have to have that overarching love. And you don't want mentors who don't really love the story to be trying to help you, because that's not going to do you any good.
Yeah, for perspective, my mentor and my agent had my for my Fate According to the Butterfly, when I signed with her, we went through like 5 rounds over 6 months. And if my agent didn't like my manuscript, how would you keep going back to the same manuscript 5 times?
Yeah. And piggybacking on that, I entered Pitch Wars, it must have been 2013. And I did not get in. And I was devastated when the list was posted because I felt like I had a really strong manuscript and I had several mentors request fulls. So I thought I had at least a pretty decent shot of getting in. Lists were posted. I did not get in. I got a call the very next day from my first agent offering me representation. So I just want to say, like, Pitch Wars is fantastic. None of us would be volunteering our time if we didn't love it and if we didn't want to give back, but it's not the only road. And because you don't get in does not mean that your manuscript is not wonderful.
Yeah. Just remember that we're not just looking for the ones that we fall in love with. We're also looking for manuscript that we can help. So even if you get rejected, probably we just don't know how to help you. That's one of the reasons.
And also, like, every year we have mentors begging us to take on a second mentee, and we have restrictions. We have restrictions on how many we can let in. Otherwise, I feel like so many of our mentors, I mean, all the time, y'all are always like, "Oh, I wish I could take on these 5, and I want, but I don't have time." Like you have only 24 hours in a day, So, yeah. So just because they have to choose one doesn't mean they didn't want to choose others too.
Yeah. I would also say that sometimes like somebody will submit something to us and we love it, but it's really close to something me or Kim is working on. And that's another reason that a really lovely manuscript just like can't be considered by the two of us. So there are tons of reasons that really wonderful manuscripts don't get chosen.
All right, so that is all the time we have for questions today. I do recommend you check out, we have, this is our last middle grade video chat, but there are Twitter chats, #AskMentor chats coming up. So make sure you check those out if you didn't get your question answered today, or if you have, especially if you have a question for like a specific person. Most of them have on their wish list ways that you can ask them questions. So yeah, go check those out. And I'm just going to ask each of our mentors to close us out with just kind of tell us if you have any books that you would like people to check out. I mean, your own books, or I mean, middle grade mentors, y'all always end up promoting other people's books too. But try to self-promote for like 15 seconds. And then also where people can find you on the internet. And I'm going to put up your Twitter handles right now. So we'll just go around the ring.
All right. I'm gonna go first, right? So my book, my Sugar and Spite, it's coming out from Scholastic April 2021. Or you can get my other book that fell on the floor, My Faith According to the Butterfly. It's already out now in bookstores and libraries. And I'm sorry, Sarah, but I have to promote another person because I'm gonna be there. Rena Barron. She's also a former mentee for a YA manuscript, but she's going to have her debut, My Under Rising Dark, next week, and I'm gonna be one of the I'm gonna have like a video chat with her, so you can catch us on September 25. We're gonna talk about Chicago, which is the main topic of which is the main setting of her book, and it's gonna be so fun because Rena's my friend, and we're gonna have so much fun talking to each other. Do tune in. I'm gonna post it on my Twitter. At Gail D Villanueva. I'm at Gail D Villanueva everywhere. I have no imagination. so I just have the same handle everywhere because I tend to forget things. Like I forget like my handle here is different. So I just make them the same. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, like even Facebook with Gail D Villanueva. So there, September 25, it's going to be on YouTube and I'm going to post it on my Twitter account. Thank you.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, my upcoming novel is The Wolf's Curse, coming out from Green Willow HarperCollins in the fall of 2021. I don't yet have a pre-order link or even a book cover, although I did just see sketches for the first time this week, and it is so cool, and I cannot wait to share the cover with you guys. But if you would please go to Goodreads and add it to your want to read list, that would be awesome. And you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, and I'm also over on the Pitch Wars site in the forums answering questions there. And then as far as promoting other people, I just want to give a shout out to my former mentee, Reese Eshman, because her novel, Etta Invisible, is coming out next May. And she is also a Pitch Wars mentor. It's an awesome story, you guys. It's magical and trains and nefarious gummy bears. And just, you really want to add that to your Goodreads list. So please check her out too.
I think it's you, Jennifer.
And I'm muted. I'm a mess. Hi, I'm Jennifer. It was lovely to be here. Also, it occurs to me that I said the word powwow a little while ago, which is gross, and I'm very sorry if I offended anybody. I've never heard that word come out of my mouth before. I'm a child of the 90s. I'm very sorry. Also, I don't have any books to promote yet, hopefully soon, but my co-mentor wrote this book, and it's called Lexi Magill and the Teleportation Tournament, and it is so delightful. And our mentee from 2018, I'm breaking all the rules. Her book, as I said earlier, is coming out on September 22nd. It's so delightful. And Kim, my co-mentor, is doing her virtual book launch on September 22nd. So it will be a Team Kraken Bee affair. Everybody should join in. I think it's like 6 p.m. Central Time. I don't know. I'll post about it today. Thank you.
Yay. So Midsummer's Mayhem, once again, came out last summer. And Red, White, and Whole will be out February 2nd. So the pre-order links are live. You can just go to my website and you can add it to Goodreads. And then Much Ado About Baseball, which does not yet have a cover, but I've seen the sketches. Woo! It's coming out June 1st of 2021, and you can add it on Goodreads. So Remy's books are Pie in the Sky, which came out in 2019, and then her second one, Fly on the Wall, is coming out this month. I think it's out.
Just out, yeah.
It's out.
And it's totally awesome too. It's a prose graphic novel hybrid also. And I also just want to give a shout out to Adriana Cuevas, who's Total Eclipse of Nestor Lopez. She's a 2017 mentee also, and like it just came out and it's so spectacular, and everyone should go buy that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Let's see if Sofiya is gonna break through.
And I'm Rajani LaRocca everywhere too. I'm also have no imagination about that. So sorry. Go ahead, Sofiya.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm looking at all of our handles, like they're all just our first name, last name. So yeah,
because
we're all
smart.
Well,
Yeah, we're so smart.
Branding, guys.
Yeah,
Branding.
exactly. It's not having no imagination; it's branding.
It
It's
is.
branding.
Yeah.
I'd rather let's call it branding.
Yes. So my sequel is coming out in November, on November 10th. So yay, that's fun. Go check it out. It has grumpy elves and Jews in it. So there you go.
Is there like a goat?
More goats.
There is
More goats.
Obviously,
There must be a goat.
There's several. Yes. They do a lot of stuff. They're integral to the plot. And don't let my editor or agent tell you otherwise. All of my books are back here that I can't reach and be like, read this one and stuff. But I mean, everyone I know has books coming out and they're all amazing. And I'm in graduate school and I can't read any of them, so it pains me greatly. I'm going to graduate from school, and the 8 months afterward is just going to be me reading books to keep up with. But the Get a Grip Vivi Cohen is a super cute book, and I love it, and I love Sarah, so I think everybody
You
should read it. Sorry, I can't help it.
I told everyone that y'all cannot help yourselves. And I was right.
Okay, I totally forgot my book is actually available for. Okay, that was on me. I totally forgot my book is available for pre-order.
Oh gosh! All right,
it's 2020. It's fine. Don't worry.
And it's 3 a.m. Okay, it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I have an excuse. You folks don't have an excuse. I have
no excuse.
I'm so sorry. I totally forgot it's available for pre-order, and you can add it on Goodreads.
All right. Thank you all for being here. I love doing the middle grade chats. They're always so uplifting. Y'all are just great. So thank you all for volunteering to be here and answering everyone's questions. I also want to thank Lee Marr, our social media director, for volunteering, and she's live tweeted some highlights and stuff like that. And then also thank you to Jalen and Lodestar, who were in the comments today, making sure everybody stayed, everyone behaved in the comments. So thank you all for volunteering for that. I'm Sarah Nicolas. This is my YouTube channel. So if you could subscribe, that would be great. On Monday, I have an agent chat live with Jennifer March Soloway of Andrea Brown Literary Agency. So make sure you come back and learn a little bit more about her and what she's looking for. And I think that's it. So everyone stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll see you next time.